Hey everybody, Chase here. Just wanted to give everybody a little update and announcement on things going on here at Nerd Shit in the Dark. So this week we were supposed to drop the episode where Braden and I were going to review Dune and Dune Part 2 and Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. But we ran into a little snag. I forgot to turn a certain switch on and I didn't get any of Braden's dialogue, so we recorded a whole episode that just we didn't have Braden. So what I'm trying to work on right now is my mic sort of picked him up. So I'm fidgeting and trying to save the episode with what I can, but it's going to take me more time to edit. And same thing happened to the South Park and the Dark episodes where just one of us got picked up and I didn't. So episodes are taking a little longer to come out. So what I'm throwing on here for this week is a preview at our Patreon exclusive podcast, the ChaseBase. It's my first one that I did covering the new Prince of Persia video game. And honestly, all this editing and all these problems we've been running into lately is kind of giving me a chance to really think things through. And I'll probably drop the Dune episode as soon as I get it done, so I don't know when that'll be, but Nerd Shit in the Dark will probably be taking a month off as we try to kind of figure everything out. I want to try to get our audio sounding as best as it can for the shitters, so you don't have to listen to crappy audio. Or honestly, what this episode's gonna sound like when it comes out is my mic will sound fine, but Braden's is gonna sound dog shit. But throughout the month, I still plan on doing ChaseBase episodes that I'm going to drop on Spotify and all these other, platforms. It's kind of like a preview for the Patreon. So if you like what you're seeing on the ones I drop, after this month is over, you'll just get Nerd Shit in the Dark and you'll have to go to Patreon to listen to them. But you'll be getting a couple episodes throughout the month and then the Dune episode. And then expect us back with normal Nerd Shit in the Dark with the best audio we can have. Probably around when Godzilla X Kong comes out, because I'm dying to see that. So without further ado, here is a Patreon exclusive ChaseBase episode, and we'll be back with Nerd Shit in the Dark in April. And keep your eyes peeled for when the Dune episode comes out, because it is a pretty good episode, even though Braden's mic won't sound great. On that note, I'll catch you guys later. What's up, shitters, and welcome to the very first episode of what I'm calling the ChaseBase, the special podcast just for our Patreon subscribers. And, well, the Patreon is free right now, so there's really no reason to not sign up for the Patreon. And you get a little extra podcast. I'd like to say once a week, but we'll see what I can get done and what I can get done. But welcome. I'm really excited to be doing this. It's weird doing a podcast by myself. I'm not used to just talking to myself, but I took a lot of notes and I have a lot I want to say about today's topic. Now, to give you a brief update, since this is the first episode, my plan for the ChaseBase is to just go, once a week, try to accomplish some nerd shit and go into a deep dive. Whereas like Nerd Shit in the Dark, Braden and I don't typically go too deep. We try to stay spoiler free unless we want to talk spoiler, or it's usually like something we're playing, not something we finished. This is more, I'm going to talk about something I've seen through, at least maybe to the end if it's a video game, definitely to the end if it's a video game, and maybe like a season. Try to do a whole show. We'll see what comes of this. I'm sure I'll have Braden on from time to time as we come up with more things to do for our Patreon. But for starters, this is it. And I'm starting it with a segment in the ChaseBase that I am calling Chase Plays. And it's just my name for Chase Plays video games. CHASE and then PLASE. Chase Plays. It sounds more like place, but it's plays, like plays video games. So this is not every week's going to be a Chase Plays, but today's first episode is Chase Plays because Chase played a really fucking fun video game over the course of the last week and a half, and I'm really looking forward to doing a complete deep dive into this game as it consumed so much of my time in the past week and a half. So without further ado, welcome to the ChaseBase. So welcome. The video game I'm covering today is a new one. It just came out at time of recording last week. Officially, I think it came out last Thursday, so not even a week ago. I got the special edition, so I got to start playing it Monday, which was nice. Really crazy thing the video game industry is doing to make us pre-order things or get the special edition of things, and I'm a sucker for it. I saw that the Lost Crown, I was pumped. I was like, oh, it's only $50. Love a cheaper game. And then it was like, yeah, but you could play it Monday if you pay $10 more and pay for a full price game and get a bunch of useless fucking pre-order shit that you'll never use. And I was just like, yeah. I did with Harry Potter last year too. It was like, do you want to pay more money and play it sooner? And I'm just like, yeah, I guess so. And I'm glad I did. I'm really am glad I did, because I'd still be playing it now if I waited till Thursday. And lots to do in this game. So did I say what game it is? Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's the new Prince of Persia game. And I'll be honest, I haven't played a lot of Prince of Persia. I played some on the PS2 when it came out. I had the 360 reboot. I don't remember finishing it. I really don't think I finished it, but I played it. I've seen the movie. If you watch the podcast, Braden and I kind of gave our brief thoughts on that. Yeah, not the biggest Prince of Persia fan. Not that I'm against it either. But what I am a big fan of is Metroidvania-style puzzle platforming video games. They have probably been one of my favorite... They're my top 3 favorite genre video games. I played a lot of them just over the course of this year, even, with Hollow Knight and a bunch of Castlevanias, Metroid. I've played these games my whole life, and they just kind of keep getting better as life goes on. And this game is absolutely no exception to the genre. I remember when the game was coming out, just before they put the reviews out, and across the board it got 8s and 9s, which is great scores. So that's kind of what pushed me in the direction of buying it. But I think for somebody that enjoys this genre, like specifically the genre of Metroidvania, side-scrolling platformers, this is a 10. In my opinion, this game is a fucking 10. It definitely borrows on a lot of levels from the other games, especially Hollow Knight. I will get into that. It's a Hollow Knight clone with some Prince of Persia skin for the most part, but honest to God, nothing wrong with that. If you've ever played Hollow Knight, there ain't a fucking damn thing wrong with that. And I'll get into more of that as we dive into this. But I thought this game was, as somebody who's played a lot of Metroidvanias this year, especially like through the ages, like the Castlevanias, I did, different generations of Castlevania games, and Hollow Knight being kind of like the newer type of this game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is, I think, a beautiful evolution of the genre going for it. It's a great modern, this is what these games should feel like in modern video game world, especially if we're going to pay a full price for it. 'Cause some of these games, the Castlevanias, nothing wrong with those. They came out at a time where they were only like $30 or $40, and you got 10 hours out of them, or a little more. You could probably put some more time into it, yada yada. This game took me 28 hours, just shy of 28 hours to beat. And I did quite a bit of the extra shit, and I definitely sat on some puzzles that I just knew I had to get for longer. But I mean, a solid 28 hours. There's still a couple things that I could go do. So like, I didn't 100% this game. I put it on the hard difficulty, not the hardest or the normal, but the hard. And it was just an all around fucking romp. And like I said, worth $60. If I get 20 hours out of a game, to me, that's all right. That's worth a full price. So 10 more, beautiful, especially with these kind of games. You don't want to make them too long, because after a while it starts to get a little redundant. But with this game, that never happened. I mean, there was a point where I was probably, now I know, maybe halfway through the game, and I thought I was like nearing the end. I was like, this map is massive. Like, I've done a lot of shit. I feel like I should be wrapping up. And the game just said, no, you got another half of the game and then some to get through. And I was pumped for it. So love that. Love that. This map is enormous. But I got to stick to my points. I don't want to go too far off of everything I want to say. Let's talk. We'll start with the puzzles. The puzzles in this game are everywhere. I mean, almost everything that you do is a puzzle, at least while it's new. Like later on, you can go through rooms and just plow through them with your abilities and what have you, run through them. But almost from the very beginning to the end, everything you do is a little bit of a puzzle. Each room, not every room, but most rooms have like some sort of puzzle that you have to solve to get through or to earn an item. I find even when you're battling the smaller opponents, just like baddies in the room, there's some sort of like technique. It's not just, you can't just run up to them and hack them. I mean, there are some that you can, but there are a lot like they have a shield, so you have to like, oh, should you parry them? Should you slide underneath them? Things like that. And I'll get into the combat because I think the combat is a beautiful blending of just like slashy sword fighting video games mixed with side scrolling as well for this game. So, but like, so you got those kind of puzzles, just little puzzles. Then you got the puzzles of just like, you're in a room, here's a task that you have to get through to either get through the room, get some sort of perk, get a new item, all sorts of things. I mean, the game is just riddled with so many, and they are challenging, but doable and rewarding, and it can be a pain, and you can do them over and over and over. There's a fucking elevator. At one point, you get a key to go through an elevator into a secret room, and there's a puzzle that I spend way too much of my time on. And fuck, dude, I didn't get it. I did not get it, and it killed me, because it was just before I was going to beat the game, and I was like, I want to go beat this fucking game. I intend to go back and finish this puzzle, but fuck, is it very... Those of you who played it or know, it's just, it keeps throwing these wheels of death at you, and you have to find ways to get around them, and you have to use each of your abilities to get around it, and it just goes on for fucking ever. And I Googled, I saw that you win like a skin from it, and I was like, this is not worth how many times I fucking did that. So I don't know if that one's very rewarding, but the rest of them, really, really fun. And if you can't solve one, it's a Metroidvania game, which means you're going to get abilities throughout the game that will let you get into different areas of the map. And that goes the same with the puzzles. Sometimes you're just like, I don't think I can do this without said ability, especially that elevator one. There would be no way to do most of it without much of the ability. Some of them you don't get till near the end of the game. So that's amazing. And then you got the boss fights. And I have a lot to say about the boss fights later on specifically. But every boss fight, I mean, if you played a Metroidvania game, there typically you got to solve a puzzle in a fight. You learn the rhythm and the rhyme of the boss that you're fighting, and I see that as a puzzle in itself to overcome them. So that's I found that fun. Every boss was very unique, and every little puzzle that you had to solve to finish them off was also very unique. And if you listen to the podcast, I've kind of talked about it a little, but at that time I only played 1 day of this game. Now I've played the whole thing, and what a romp! With the puzzles, that this also leaves the platforming, because it's a puzzle fucking side-scrolling platforming game, and the platforming is, guys, it is a platformer's wet dream, at least in my opinion. I like, you are constantly hit with just rooms of challenging but exciting and fun to do platforming. That if you fall, you die, or you have to start over, or you gotta set portions of yourself in areas to use your abilities to go through. And I mean, everywhere you go, if there's a room on the map that you haven't gotten through and you get the ability to do it later, you go back and you're challenged with just this fucking great platforming time. And you can speed through it, and you can take your time through it, and there's just so many ways to do each platform sections. Guys, I think that's what kept me coming back. And like, there's a fast travel mechanic. Like I said, the map is huge, so you will fast travel to areas, but like, to get in between some of those, you're just like, I gotta go through this same platforming puzzle that I did before. A lot of times you can unlock a door that gives you like a shortcut, but like, you can skip that. Like, and if you just want to have fun, I think that's what makes it fun to do 28 hours of this game through, is like, just running around, just getting from point A to point B is fun. It could piss you off. It could definitely make you angry and make you mad at the game. But for me personally, I fucking loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. So with that out of the way, there's not really too much more I need to get in with that. Play the fucking game and experience it to really understand the platforming. But like I said, I wanted to talk about the combat. Now, this game, like I said, it borrows a lot from the game Hollow Knight if you've ever played it. There are bad guys that are a lot like bad guys in this game. There are things that you do that are a lot like things that you do, attacks, ways to set your attacks. I'll get into that. But I found the combat, that's kind of where the evolution is. It's like Hollow Knight, but with the combat of your typical, even say Ghosts of Tsushima type of sword fighting. Not entirely, but borrows from that and makes the combat in a side scroller feel like you're playing kind of like a 3D game in a way. And what I mean by that is you get 2 swords that you can upgrade throughout the game, which I definitely recommend upgrading that shit. Especially if you're playing on the hard difficulty. I'm assuming it was harder to kill some of these things because I just couldn't hit them hard enough. But you bash that bitch up and it gets going. But you get 2 of those, and you also get a bow and arrow at some point. And it's fun because in these battles, most villains have some type of blade, whether it's their claws or their teeth or something that they're going to shoot at you. And you have your ability. This is a game that heavily relies on parrying. So if somebody's coming at you, you have to time your parrying right, and it can you do a little block and then you can strike them. And I really enjoy that because in a lot of these games like Castlevania, like you either hit shit or it hits you. You can maybe block. I don't even really remember. You might not be able to even block. So with this, like, you don't have really a block, but you have a parry. So if it works, you are rewarded. You get some energy for the special moves that I'll talk about in a minute. But the parrying it's not super easy. I mean, once you get the rhythm for it can be. Not everybody's timing on their attacks is the same, so you really have to time it just to get it right. Because if you don't get it right, the game makes you take double the amount of damage practically that you would have if you would have just hit it because you fucked up your parry. And I mean, that happened to me so many fucking times, but it definitely kept me coming back for more. I love it. And when you get the successful that you've parried and there's like this blue light, oh, it feels good. And like they're off, so you can just slide in there and kill them. And then sometimes they'll get like a yellow mark. If a move has a yellow energy thing before it hits you, you can parry that. And it usually starts a cutscene where you either one-shot like little villains or like in a boss fight. You definitely want to use these in the boss fights because you deal so much damage to the bad guys. And then sometimes they'll shine a red color. And what the red color means is that you can't parry them. They're unparryable. So if you try to, you're going to get fucked. Your best bet is to, like, there's a dodge. You hit R and you can slide and dodge and try to get out of the way. That's your best bet with those. So like that, just knowing that you're looking out for just parrying, you're looking out for special parrying, you're looking out for like, oh fuck, this attack can't be parried. And the timing is all over the place. There's no specific like rhyme or reason. You just got to know the bad guy. You got to know who you're fighting. And it's sick. It's so smooth. The bow and arrow, you just shoot bows and, a set amount of arrows. Nothing too special with that. I didn't really level my bow up, so maybe I'm wrong. There probably was. There's little tokens that you can get to upgrade shit. And I didn't really do any of the bow shit. I just liked slashing and fighting and getting into the sword fighting of it all. So, but like, I love that. So all these 3 things mixed together, the puzzles, the platforming, and the combat for this beautiful, beautiful game, beautiful type of gameplay that kept me personally coming back for more and couldn't put this shit down. So that's just like the basics of the game. Another thing on the attack menu that I forgot to mention was you have your special attacks. Now you get these, I can't remember what they're called. I'll be honest, I skipped a lot of the dialogue. The story was fine. I had a good time with it. A lot of the reviewers were like, I was confused about the story, and I was like, nothing about this is confusing me, and I'm not even reading most of it. It was fine. I enjoyed it. But one of the things, you get abilities to do special moves. In these special moves, you have like a energy bar, and if the energy bar fills to 1, you can use your level 1 special attacks, level 2 special attacks. Ultimately, you gain to level 3 special attacks. And if you parry, I can't remember if I had an item on that if I parried it made the meter go up. There are things that you do, like just hitting people makes the meter go up. And if you get the meter full, you can do your special move. And those fucking things come in handy, especially when you get the 3 ones. Or if you're in a boss fight and you don't want to take battle, because your special moves like activate like a little cutscene and you just can hit your opponent if you land the hit. So you don't have to take damage. I finished a lot of bosses off by just like, oh, my energy's up for this attack. Bada bing, bada boom, bada booey. So throw that in with the combat of the game. You get this fun little special moves. And there's lots. I don't even know if I got them all. There are all sorts of different abilities and ways to hit or strike your enemies. Really fun. The story. The story is typically in Prince of Persia, you play as the Prince of Persia. But in this one, you play as a I can't remember the guy's name. Like I said, I didn't read. I did read it. I followed the story. A lot of the names were not beneath me, but I didn't care. But you play as a guy who's a part of this group called the Immortals, and it's these 7 or so warriors that work for the crown and have special anime fighting abilities and yada yada yada. Your master, this girl that you trained under, she kidnaps the Prince of Persia and takes him to this fucking timey, crazy mountain. And, through trial and tribulation, you solve that there's a mystery within a mystery within a mystery on this mountain. Time moves differently. One of the side quests is you have to fight and kill all of your master that betrayed you's henchmen, or not henchmen, but like her warriors who are now like old as fuck and because they've lived on this mountain forever or some shit. So that's going on, and I don't think I want to get too into spoilers of the story of the game. I think that's where I'll draw the line. But you're on a quest to save the Prince of Persia in this game. You and these people, and ultimately something happens that makes you out to be the bad guy, so you kind of have to fight some of the other immortals, and those are boss fights I have to spoil because one in particular I wanted to fucking kill someone while I played it. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to get too much into the story, but that's the basic. You go to this mountain and try to save the Prince of Persia, who's been kidnapped by the person that taught you, and you need to understand why. And there's a lot of things before you find the twist that you're just like, why did she do this? Like, is she bad? I don't know what's going on. Fucking crazy. So that is the basic story of this game. So now I'm going to dive into just kind of the things it took from Hollow Knight a little. Hollow Knight is a great game. I fucking had a wonderful time with Hollow Knight. And this game is kind of its maybe cousin, maybe older cousin. No, younger cousin? I don't know. I'm not really sure. They're related somehow, but there are differences. If you played Hollow Knight, there's this sense of like, in Hollow Knight, you're going down into like the ground, and everything's very bug and underground themed, and you really feel lost in the depths when you're going through Hollow Knight. And Prince of Persia is a little different because you're on this mountain that you're climbing, and there's ups and downs. There's an underground area, but ultimately you're on this mountain and you're going up. And much like Hollow Knight, where every different section is unique and different and colored in a different way to let you know you're in a different section of the map. Prince of Persia, I think every single one, and there's like 8 or 9, might be more, locations on this map, very distinct, very unique. They all have their own personality, all have their own color. It makes it easy to remember where to go, or if somebody's telling you to go to a certain spot, you're like, okay, I know that I'm in the forest area because it's the forest, or I know I'm in like the university area. I know I'm in the underground sand area. Like there's just so many. Every time you run into a new spot, just like in Hollow Knight, you're just like hit with this sense of adventure that I really enjoyed. And I mean, you're going back and forth from your map a lot, and even on the map, they're colored differently. They're colored the way that kind of they look on the game or in the game. Can't say enough. But that's something that sort of borrows from Hollow Knight. I'm sure other games have done it too. I'm just talking the ones I've played specifically, and I'm sure Hollow Knight probably borrows it from other things. I know it is, but I just think the aesthetic, specifically in Hollow Knight and this, they went above and beyond, and I really dug the way all the levels in this game looked. One little feature they had in the map that I thought was pretty cool was with these games, I mean, you got to kind of remember where certain spots you couldn't get to so you can find them on the map. It allowed you to like place little tokens and little reminders, like this is where something's at that I don't have the ability to get through now. But like another feature to add on to that was like the eye of fucking something that allowed basically you could take a screenshot of the spot, place it on your map. So when you went on your map, you could click on it and it would show you the screenshot. So you could see specifically, this is where this spot was. Because a lot of the time with these games, especially big ones, it's like, where the fuck is that one room with that thing? Oh, God. And you're running through the whole map just to fucking figure it out. This one nails it. This one really, really nailed it with the picture thing. It's like, saves you so much time. Saves you so much time. And there's a little girl in the game that you meet who gives you like maps and also borrows from Hollow Knight, because the Hollow Knight map guy, he's like, you always know he's around because he's like whistling or something. This little bitch is doing the same thing. So like on that level, they definitely borrowed from that. She's like humming a tune and you're like, oh, the map bitch is somewhere in the area. She gives you hints too. I used one hint and I hate myself for it, because I really was just completely... It was near the beginning of the game. I was still kind of figuring out my bearing, and you have to pay 50 coins to get it. And after that, I didn't use any more. So I solved the rest of it on my... And no puzzles. It was just like, you got to go here. And I was like, I try to go here. So I went back to there, and I figured it out. So, I don't know. More Hollow Knight shit. There are these... you get these amulets throughout the game, and they're like ability amulets, and each one of them are marked with like 1 dot, 2 dots, or 3 dots, and the amount of dots are the amount of like amulet slots that you have. So if you have a 1, I think you start with 4 slots, so you can put 4 1 or 1 3 and a 1 or 2 2s to fill it up, and each of these amulets give you a different type of ability, and throughout the game you get more like amulet placeholders, so you can put more amulets and mix abilities. Hollow Knight did this. I mean, it's the same thing. If you played it and you did all that, it's the same setup, just with its own unique for this game abilities. And you can mess around with these quite a bit, especially like certain boss fights. I'd take some off that I'd just use for like platforming, or like there's one that allows you to see how much health the bad guys have, which you don't need for a boss fight. So I'd take that off. Or like there's one that allows like you get money that falls off of people, and this absorbs it. And those are like oneers. But then you have one that's like 3 that's like greatly, and you got to upgrade these. So you get them at like a base level where they're like moderately damage doesn't hurt you. And if you upgrade them with money and all this other shit you get throughout the game, you can make it go to greatly. So, you know, you get the one that's like a shield that greatly deters damage from melee attacks, which is, I would recommend, especially if you're playing it on a harder difficulty, because fucking shit hurts. And then there's ways to make your attacks better. I had the one that made like my energy for my special attack go up if I got hurt, or if I landed more parries, and yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of these, and I spent a good chunk of my 28 hours side questing. There are side quests. There are lots of side quests. I also love that they implemented side quests. Kind of like Ori. I think Hollow Knight does it too. Not sure. But trying to get more amulet placeholders, because like nothing's more painful than you're like, I want to use that one, but I don't want to take this one off. Gah! You got to solve it. So I spent a lot of time getting different amulet placeholders, but you know, you also find things that make your health go up, and things that you can add on to purchases to upgrade weapons and shit. Like there are a lot of different types of items in this game that help you upgrade and help you become better at the game, and you are rewarded with them by like solving the puzzles, getting the new abilities, going to old locations, back and forth, all the fun shit of these kind of games. Like I said, a wet dream of the genre, a wet dream of the genre, or for the genre lovers. I don't really know, but so that was another thing I borrowed from Hollow Knight. I could probably go more. There was a specific bad guy that I was just like, oh, that's the Hollow Knight thing. Like that is without a doubt it's like this thing that blocks the wall, and you got to try to get behind it to hurt it. Both games have these. Both games. I don't know if the solution's the same in Hollow Knight. You get an ability that helps you deal with them in Prince of Persia. I can't remember with Hollow Knight, but just lots. If you liked Hollow Knight, I guarantee you'll like this game, is basically what I'm saying. Like, I don't think of it as copying. I think of it as taking great ideas and just going with them further. So, like I said, throughout the game, you get different abilities that you use to solve puzzles, fight baddies, get through the map, all these things. I don't remember all of their specific names, but I'm going to talk about them here by the names that they were given, or by the names that I call them. One thing that fucking was driving me nuts was throughout a lot of the game, you could definitely tell that there were places that you needed to get through that required a double jump, and fuck if they didn't hold the double jump off for what I consider to be a ridiculous amount of time. You find ways kind of around it, but once you get it, man, it's like fucking crack. I've never done crack, but it's like boom, 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 like you're just flying now. Now that you have the ability to double jump so late in the game, you're just like, here we fucking go. So I'll just say that about the double jump. It's called something else. It's some timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly fucking shit, but it's good. It's very nice when you get it, because damn, if there's not a lot of things that you're just like, if I could only jump just a little higher. And they find ways around that before you even get it too. That makes it almost maddening that you got to do this other thing than double goddamn jump. But you do get it. But we'll get there. There was this one, I call it the reverse location. It's some sort of, I think it's a rewind ability. So what it is essentially is you hit the left bumper, and that's another thing. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of buttons and like abilities that require you to use all of the buttons. And it's a lot of remembering buttons. And that can get confusing at times, but it worked. I feel like this is one of those games that, like, if you can play it on the PC, if you're a PC person, it's probably better that way, because damn, was it just, some moves are so close to other moves that you're just like, is it this button or this button? And I fuck up moves all the time. I digress. So the reverse location one was fun. It was, you would hit L and it would leave a version of yourself somewhere, like and you're frozen there. It's like a little holographic version of you, and you would run ahead and do something, and if you hit L, you would zip back to that placement of that body. So this comes in handy for lots of puzzles where you got to kind of have your body in one spot and zip to another. I remember there's like cages you have to unlock. Your bow has an ability to like shoot this wheel thing that can go through cages to like spin elevators and spin doors. So what you do is you like set your body one place, a door would close behind it, you'd open a different door, zip back to your body to where that door is close to. It comes in handy in there are a lot of boss fights where you would set your body one place because you knew a fucking crazy attack was coming, and you zip back. I mean, you get this ability, I think it's the first one of this first, you get like a dash. So that's your first, like where you just hit R and dash. Not much to say about that. If you played a game where you have fucking dash, you dash. But this one you use from the time you get it till the time it's over in lots of different ways. And I just thought that was a unique ability. I've been referencing it in my personal life a lot of the times where I'd be like, I would have placed this version of myself here, and then I ate this meal that I ordered and it fucking sucked. I would zip back to my other body and eat. Yeah, we just had fucking pancakes that were made out of vegetables the other night. Vegetable pancakes. We're trying to be healthy in my house. And we agreed they were fucking awful. But the option was given to me by manager Miranda. Either these pancakes or hamburger helper, which I love. And I was like, we'll be healthy. Like, do the pancakes. A few bites into the pancakes, I was like, I would have placed my thing right before I said that. And I'd zip back and I'd say hamburger helper. Because those were not good. Other healthy meals are good, but those pancakes sucked. So that's that ability. You got the dash. You got the bow and arrow wheel shot. That's an ability that's acquired when you get the bow. You don't start with the bow. You get it a little later. I wrote double jump, thank Christ, in my notes. Truly, thank Christ. Like, you go so fucking long without a double jump. And it's just like, man, if I had a fucking double jump. And of course they make it like you use time to make the double jump work. There's this one, it's called the Dimensional Claw. That's what it's called. I call it the Medo Zangetsuha, which is a move from Inuyasha that does the same thing. Essentially, you open up like a black vortex that absorbs things in it. And you use this in puzzles for like items that you need to take and move from point A to point B. And you can pick them up, send them down. I remember when you first got it, it was to like open these throughout the game, there's these like yellow energy walls in your way that you don't know how to take down. But once you get this Meadow Zangetsuha thing, you can shoot like little bomb things at it and blow them up. So that's fun. You can absorb bad guys, which is what I'd always do. If you're ever in like an arena where they throw like 3 fuckers at you, absorb one of the fuckers and then you can shoot them out and you kind of have like a mind control on them for a little bit. So they'll fight for you. Loved that. So that ability just had countless things that you could do with it that just made for really fun and compelling gameplay. Sometimes you'd get stuck in a room where like I absorbed one and it was fighting for me, killed the other, but like we can't move on until it's dead, so you have to fight them. As soon as you hit them, the mind control's done. But really cool. I found that a very unique, reminded me of Inuyasha, but still unique to the game type of ability that you use for a while. Because you can either let things out of it or you can shoot fucking bombs out of it. So very cool. Very, very cool. There's one, it's called Clairvoyance is the ability. I have a couple of these by their actual name. And what I was calling it was the dimension hopping, because you go into like the different time dimensions for this ability. Essentially, you hit down on I think it's the right joystick, and it makes you go into like a kind of a holographic world where like there are platforms and like bad guys in the game that like they're purple and you fall through them, but there's also blue ones that you can stand on. And when you switch dimensions, those purple ones become blue and the blue ones become purple, and you can hop through. That took a while to solve too. I didn't know what was going on. There were bad guys I couldn't see that were just appearing. And I was like, what's that about? And then when I got the dimensional ability, I was like, oh, fuck. And the dimensional ability is one that comes in handy during that fucking goddamn elevator puzzle. And man, it's a rip-roaring pain in the ass. But usually that ability is really cool. And I'm telling you, you're like zipping through these platformer things. There's spikes around you. There's swinging spike things at you. And then they throw one of these clairvoyance jumping pads in the way. So like you're zipping, you're trying to be fast. You have to be fast with the click to make a purple turn blue so you can step on it, and then turn it purple again so you can dash through it. Fucking crazy. But in like every boss that you get these abilities before or after, you use them on. Like I know the clairvoyance, you had to fight this dude that like every once in a while you'd knock him down, but he'd get back up and I didn't know why. You turn clairvoyance on, you go to a different dimension, you got to hit him in that. Super cool. A lot of great bosses. Can't say that enough. Another ability, I don't remember what it was called. This came in handy a little later on because like once you finally get the double jump, you're then greeted with jumps that are even bigger than double jumps. So you're like, what the fuck is there? Triple jump? What's going on here? I don't know how I'm going to get up there. I call it the shoot, arrow, and warp to it ability, which you gain from beating a boss that I will get to. A boss that I will fucking certainly get to. But what you do with this then is like, much like where you can leave your body with the L button, it gives you the ability to shoot an arrow somewhere and then hit L, and you then form where the arrow is. So that's, once I got that ability was pretty sick. That's very late in the game, but like just being able to be like, oh, I can't reach that spot, or like I have to get through this whole room. Oh, I don't think so. Shoot arrow, whew, warp to that spot. Love that ability. A couple bosses that you got to use that ability to get through. Definitely a lot of puzzles that you got to use that ability to get through. And if you're quick with your wit, it can be a really good time. And then the final ability that you get near the very end of the game, I think it's like right before, there are 2 end bosses. Like there's a boss and then you just go straight to the end of the game and fight that boss. But you get this ability. You get these from feathers. And this feather gives you, I call it the rope hook shot. I can't remember what it was actually called. Something like the leather of time. You essentially shoot. It's a hook shot. Like you can grab bad guys and zip to their location, like zip at them. Like throughout the game, you see these like purple rings that you know that you got to latch onto somehow. And finally, you get this ability, and it really lets you go back through the game to zip through these things. And that's what it does. It lets you hook shot onto these things and get into higher and higher locations, but it also pulls enemies closer or pulls you closer to the enemies, which totally comes... You have to use it on the second to last boss fight or you're going to fucking die. So you got to zip around, and I will talk about that bad guy. Really, really fun. All the ability, especially now, like I kind of put the game down after I beat it. I will be going back to just abusing all these abilities and ripping through the map because there are still things I got to solve. There's definitely countless puzzles. Not countless. I did a lot of the puzzles. I should have took more notes on each puzzle because there were so many that I had to do over and over and over again, but it was so nice when I finally got them. I'll work on these as these podcasts go on. I'll get into a little more detail with some of these things, but let's talk bosses. Let's talk some bosses. There are, much like every individual area had its own personality, flavor, aesthetic, so do all these bosses. I mean, the first couple, a lot of the trailers showed some of the bosses. You know, you'd see like the tiger or the lion thing with the scorpion tail or the big pig. And those are fun bosses. Don't get me wrong. Those are like tutorial bosses. Those are like, this is teaching you how to boss fight the game. And then they throw some really fucking crazy fun bosses. And there's like mini, I don't know if they're mini, but there's rooms with just like big fuckers that are hard to kill that you get special rewards if you kill. And those are also interesting. But I'm here to talk about the boss bosses. So there were three in particular that I enjoyed quite a bit. And one of them is this forest queen. You're in like the forest level. It's right where I got lost too. And I found my way through. And I got to this bitch. Oh my God. She was a tough one. I really thought like the first couple times I tried this fight, she's like this tree monster girl who rides this big wolf, this demon wolf, and you kind of fight both of them. And I think, to me personally, it was the first fight in the game, the first boss battle that was truly like a challenge, like a challenge. Like the puzzles, they were all in the puzzles were part of all the other boss fights, but this was one that was like, all right, I truly have to solve this puzzle, or I'm just gonna keep fucking dying. She has like this sword, and I guess it's more of like a spear, this giant fucking spear thing. And the wolf thing either strikes you or shoots fucking beams. They jump in and out of the screen a lot, so you're always waiting for it to pounce on you. And you just got to use all the abilities that you have at this point to get through it. And like I said, she fucking kicked my ass so many times. I had to upgrade some of my amulets and some of my health to finally get it. But ultimately, what I really enjoyed about it was like you had to solve the rhythm and the puzzle of the boss fight. Like you had to figure out like, oh, when she throws the spear at me and it spins and it takes up the whole fucking map, how do I dodge that? You'd use that ability to reverse time, or like you could hit R and just dive underneath it sometimes. Like, and there were she probably had like 10 or 15 moves that you had a different solution to have to solve. And that's what I really liked about it. And there were 2 times, every boss fight kind of has like 3 sections. Like you get so far, cutscene, they get a little harder, cutscene, they get even harder. And one of the things this bitch did was like she disappeared and it would go to this like different dimension, and 3 versions of her would just keep coming down in a row, and you'd have to like jump or dash or duck, and then it does it a second time. It's even faster, and it's just like, oh my fucking God. And you're getting your ass beat the whole time, but if you figure it all out and you don't let yourself get hurt too much, I mean, I don't think there was a boss fight that I finished in this game that by the time I beat them, it wasn't like, I have to land this hit or I'm fucking dead. So like, it was always that. Even when I had the puzzle down, I was like, there are just some things that I cannot solve. And this was the first one that was like, this could be where I get stuck on this fucking game. And luckily I persevered. I kept trying to figure out every way to dodge her attacks, which she has multiple. She'll like split from the wolf. He'll shoot a beam at the ground and she'll throw her staff in the air, and you got to figure out how to like get in just the right position to dodge both, or you're gonna get fucked. Oh, crazy. You end up killing her, and the wolf was actually possessed by her, and he's a cool bro. He gives you some abilities, but yeah, and you save the forest, and really, really, really good fight. Another boss fight that I liked, I just wrote the water level boss guy. I don't know what his name is. He's one of the immortals. He's just like this big burly fucking, tough guy. Funny tough guy. And I just thought his boss fight was also fun. This is like near the end of the game, so the difficulty level is now through the roof, even though you have lots of abilities. And same thing as with the forest queen. Just a lot of like figure out what he's gonna do, get the fuck out of his way. He's your friend, which is what sucks, because everybody wants to fight you because of a misunderstanding. Then you'll learn if you play the game what happens about that. But not a whole lot to say that's very different about any of these bosses, really, but that was one that stuck out. And then there's this one, you fight like the ghost monster form of the old king. His name is King Darius Rucker of Hootie and the Blowfish. King Hootie? No, King Darius. He I just thought this was a cool fucking fight. You go to this, like, you go through this tomb level, which is just, the aesthetic is this light blue ghostly area, and you fight him at the peak of this place, and his design is just so cool looking. He's just this big blue ghostly big sword elemental motherfucker, and terrifying. He's huge. And like, another boss fight that I was like, fuck, I think I'm gonna be I really had to go back and upgrade a lot to like put a fight against this guy, because right out the gate I was so fucked. But he also just has like moves in between each of his cutscenes that you have to solve to figure out. He does this like ice wave that you have to use your ribbon fucking hook shot thing to get out of the way and dodge, and then shoot at him. All the while, you got to remember to use your goddamn block thing, your parry, because especially in the boss fights, if you don't use it there, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And with him, it was like he'd wipe the whole floor, and it's just like, okay, he's gonna fucking kill me. There's no not blocking this one attack. So if you don't, or there's no not, like if you get hit by it, you're gonna fucking die. So you had to get the parry timing right, and yeah, just a lot. And then he'll get like a fire ability, and he shoots fire at you, and it's just, you just gotta stay on your toes with every one of these boss fights till it's over, or you're going to fucking die. But yeah, I love the design of all the bosses. I especially love the King Darius. All fun. Even though they were challenging, even though they made me want to throw the controller at times, I didn't. And I just had a really good time. That being said, there was a boss that I really did not like. It was I think it's the boss before you fight King Darius. I call him the arrow guy. He's one of the immortals. He's got the bow and arrow. You get his bow and arrow from like a weird different version of yourself who must have got it from him. Like I said, the mountain's time's all fucked up, but you have to fight him near the end of the game, and I just fucking hated that fight. I mean, I played that fight through so many goddamn times, because it's one of those things that you're just like, I can do this. I know the puzzle. I know what I gotta do, but this motherfucker just has so many stupid moves that just, I did not like him. He does this fucking thing where he puts like little, I don't even know what they are. They're like gold stars around the map. And it starts with just a couple, so you can bow and arrow those and not worry about them. They're like little bombs though. And near the end, he just fills the whole screen with it. So you're like, oh my fuck, you don't have enough arrows, and you don't have time to hit them all so they don't blow up and hurt you. So like, your health's low, his health's getting lower. You really want to kill this motherfucker, but these things are in the way, and can't tell you how many times that just did me in. I mean, he just had so many bullshit fucking moves, and it drove me nuts. I went to bed. Like, I died so many times, and I was like, I gotta go to sleep. And I just laid in my bed for like 20 minutes concocting a plan of how to kill this guy. He just really got to me. He had the bow, and then he had this ability that like you would think, oh, I can attack him, but right as you get close, he'd like do his special, and you'd run into it, and he'd fuck you up. Oh, I hated it. And then like he had a little thing where he'd just like punch you a couple times, and there were so many ways to, even though you knew how to get the fuck out of the way, that he'd still hit you. Meanwhile, he's blasting you with bow shots that you gotta fucking dodge that are all over the map. Yeah, I definitely had to spam some special moves for that guy, because, man, I just could not get him. I don't know if to me, he's the hardest boss fight. I read a thing that people are like, the final boss is without a doubt the hardest. And I don't know if I just upgraded my weapons enough, but like, it took me like 3 or 4 tries to beat once I figured out what to do for the final boss, which I won't really get into. I didn't find him as challenging. Nothing challenged me as much as this goddamn arrow, even though they all challenged me. This fucking arrow guy. Whoo, buddy. I risked waking up my kid, who I just love when he's asleep, but I was just so mad I had to like kick and scream and act like a child. But ultimately, I killed that motherfucker. I woke up the next morning, and after 3 attempts, I fucking killed him. Thank God. Used a special ability that blasts the whole field. It was new at the time, so I forgot I had it, to get those goddamn mines out of the way, and I killed that motherfucker. Even though he's your friend in the game. But, you know, yeah. So, yeah, that is what I got to say about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown for the most part. I feel like I talked a lot, I said a lot, but I left a lot. I could go much deeper into this game. I'd love to talk with, I don't really know how Patreon works. I'm solving it as I go, but I'd love for comments or people that also played the game, or just to talk about things in this game that I didn't really touch on, especially the puzzles. There's so many. I'm just briefing over it. Even though this is a deep dive, I don't want it to go on too long. Otherwise, I'd probably have a lot to say about every single boss in every single puzzle in every single area. But I definitely recommend this. Like I said, Metroidvania style game, lover's wet dream. I mean, it was a 10. To me, it was a 10. I get why it's an 8 or 9 across the board, and still good numbers. But to somebody that likes this genre, I mean, I don't know what more you could really want. The voice acting's good. The story's decent. Cutscenes are few and far between, but also fun. The aesthetic, like I said, every level, just like the art style of the game itself, fucking awesome. I played it on my Switch. It's for PS5 and Xbox and computer. It's on everything, but to me personally, the best console to play this on is your Switch. Just the portability, especially if you have an OLED. That nice screen makes everything look so crisp. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was my first game of 2024. I was really looking forward to it. I plowed a lot of time into it. I'll probably put a few more hours into it before I ultimately put it in the time box. Yeah. So that concludes this episode of the ChaseBase. I hope I kept it entertaining. I tried to talk as much as I really could without a co-host for this. I'm planning on doing these once a week, whether it be talking on a show or a movie, a deep dive on and things like that, because like the odds of me beating a video game every week it's not always the case, and I can't always do that, but look forward to more of this. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this, that means you have signed up for our Patreon, and I know it's free, but like still, like thank you for caring enough for going from one spot to another spot to listen to anything that me or Braden or Swag or anybody in the Nerd Shit Entertainment group are making, because we're really having a lot of fun doing this, and we like seeing people interacting and watching. And I plan to take this even farther. We're going to put some more things on here. It's not just ChaseBase that I'll be doing on the Patreon, but it is what I'm going to start with because it's just kind of easy right now. I guess I don't really need to plug Nerd Shit in the Dark. It's on everything. Follow it. But if you're listening, if you're here, you've probably followed us from there. So thank you very much. And I will see everyone back here next week for the ChaseBase. I'm probably not going to get through another video game. I'm working on Sea of Stars right now, which will definitely be a topic. You'll probably hear me talk about it on the next Nerd Shit in the Dark. But a deep dive into it, probably not for a couple weeks. RPGs take me a little time, but I'm working through a show I'm hoping to talk about next time. But, once again, thank you for coming, and we'll catch you guys later. See ya.